It began like a dream. Los Angeles, a stage glowing under the weight of history. For the first time in months, the 7 members of BTS stood together again, back from military service, back from solo projects, back in the same frame. Cameras flashed, fans cried, and the reunion unfolded like a homecoming the world had been waiting for. But in the middle of all that joy, something unexpected happened. Taehyung rose from his seat. He did not smile, did not wave, did not explain. He simply walked off stage. No announcement, no glance back. The crowd froze. The cheers cut short into a stunned silence. And there, captured in unforgiving high definition, was Jungkook's face, eyes wide, lips pressed tight, as if he were holding back words that could never be said aloud. That single expression became the most replayed clip of the night. Within hours, it was all over Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. What just happened? A storm of silence. HYBE, the management powerhouse behind BTS, said nothing. Taehyung said nothing. Even Jungkook, the one whose silent reaction fueled the fire, kept quiet. The absence of answers only deepened the mystery. Speculation filled the void. Some claimed Taehyung had suffered an emotional breakdown. Others whispered about a secret conflict with management, or worse, hidden tensions between the members themselves. Clips were dissected frame by frame. Analysts debated Jungkook's clenched jaw, Taehyung's stride, the nervous glances from the others. In fan forums, theories grew like wildfire. Was this a protest? A coded message? The beginning of a fracture in the world's most unbreakable band? The silence was unbearable, and in that silence, stories began to write themselves. Taehyung speaks. Weeks later, Taehyung finally broke the quiet. Not in a press conference, not in a dramatic live stream, but in a carefully measured private interview that leaked to global media within hours. His words were calm, almost too calm for the storm they unleashed. "I left," he said, "because I needed to protect my voice. Sometimes, silence feels like betrayal, not just to myself, but to those who believe in me." He explained that his departure from the stage in Los Angeles had not been a random outburst. It was deliberate, a reaction not against his brothers in BTS, whom he described as his eternal family, but against a system that often forced decisions without his consent. Creative directions, scheduling pressures, choices made in boardrooms rather than rehearsal rooms. He spoke not with anger, but with the steady conviction of an artist unwilling to bend. And in that steadiness, fans heard both courage and heartbreak. Jungkook's reaction. The revelation struck hardest for Jungkook. For years, he had been one of Taehyung's closest confidants, sharing quiet conversations away from the cameras, shielding each other from the storms of fame. And yet, according to insiders, he hadn't known how deep Taehyung's frustration ran. The shock surfaced not in a statement, but in a short, cryptic social media post. Sometimes the hardest truths come from the people we least expect. And when they do, everything changes. The words were vague, but for ARMY, they were enough. Within minutes, the fandom was divided in interpretation. Some saw it as Jungkook's admiration for Taehyung's bravery. Others read grief between the lines, a mourning of the trust that had been broken by silence. Either way, the post became a symbol, not just of Jungkook's private turmoil, but of the emotional cost behind Taehyung's stand. Beyond the rumors, a system under scrutiny. The story exploded beyond fandom. Western outlets framed Taehyung's exit as a bold act of resistance, an idol daring to confront corporate machinery. Headlines painted him as a lone warrior against HYBE's control, shining light on the hidden struggles of global icons. In Korea, the coverage was more restrained. Analysts whispered about industry pressure but avoided outright blame. Insiders suggested that Taehyung's honesty might mark a turning point in the fragile relationship between BTS and their management. The public debate grew larger than BTS themselves. For years, fans had voiced concerns about the relentless schedules idols endure, the grueling tours, the endless promotions, the sacrifice of personal freedom. BTS, despite their success, were not immune. If anything, they were the most exposed. Taehyung's statement gave voice to fears long ignored. Even the brightest stars risk being burned by the system that makes them shine. And Jungkook's visible shock only humanized that truth. If the group's strongest pillar could be shaken, then the struggle was real. Voices of the fans, ARMY, as always, rallied around their boys. Messages of love flooded social media. Your honesty is strength, not weakness. Protecting your voice is protecting yourself. If Tae had to walk away just to be heard, something is deeply wrong. The sentiment was clear. The fans stood not with the rumors, not with the speculation, but with the members themselves. The twist. When rumors overtake reality. And then came the twist, one that turned the story on its head. As the dust settled, new details emerged. Taehyung's departure from the LA stage had less to do with protest and more to do with logistics. A misaligned schedule, a personal obligation that demanded his early exit. His later interview, though filled with strong words about artistic integrity, had never directly accused HYBE of wrongdoing or hinted at betrayal within the group. But by the time this nuance surfaced, the narrative had already been written. Social media had framed it as rebellion, tabloids as conflict, fans as heartbreak. Jungkook's startled expression had been frozen in millions of screenshots, divorced from its context. His reflective post had been twisted into a battle cry he never intended. The truth was far simpler, and far less dramatic, than the story the world had already consumed. Lessons in a rumor-fueled age. The incident revealed a dangerous pattern. How quickly speculation becomes rumor, and how rumors harden into truth in the age of social media. A walk off stage became a scandal. A look of surprise became heartbreak. A thoughtful comment became rebellion. And millions believed it, because in the absence of context, the most dramatic explanation always feels the most convincing. For BTS, the risk is more than reputation. Their bond, built on years of trust and brotherhood, can be overshadowed by narratives they never wrote. For ARMY, the cost is emotional, the pain of thinking their idols are suffering, fighting, or breaking apart, when reality is often far gentler. A universal reflection. As the noise fades, one truth remains. Behind the perfection of global icons are human beings navigating impossible expectations. And behind every viral rumor lies a responsibility, on the media to report with accuracy, on fans to approach stories with care, and on all of us to remember that context matters. Sometimes the most shocking truths are not about betrayal or conflict. Sometimes the truth is simply this: that silence, surprise, and speculation can weave fiction stronger than fact. And in those moments, it is not just idols like Jungkook and Taehyung who are tested, it is all of us, asked to choose between believing the storm or seeking the clarity that follows. Because in the end, protecting the truth is just as vital as protecting the voice.